Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today we're on another tutorial and we're going to be looking at the vehicles for the Pact side. Last time I looked at the support units and I really showed you basically some of the really most powerful artillery in the game, but this time we're looking at one of probably the Pact's weakest parts of their deck, but they still have some very good units, so we've got quite a lot to get through, so I'm going to get on with it. So first of all, we have the ASU 85. This is the kind of tank that can really support a push. It's not very fast, it only has a speed of 45 kilometers per hour, but its main cannon is really what makes this worth it. It only costs 10 points and you can fully vet it for 20 points, I believe, which can make this accuracy very, very strong. With an AP power and HE power of 3, it can be both effective against light armoured vehicles and infantry, so it's definitely worth having as a support unit if you're running a rush deck. I haven't personally unlocked it and I haven't tried and tested it on the field, so I can't say how it really performs, but I have seen other people use it before for pushing people out of forests and for generally countering rushes as well as pushing with rushes, because they are a lot faster than they may seem on roads. So yeah, the one front armour and one side armour keeps them safe, and they have a half decent fuel capacity, but the operational range isn't amazing. But then again, it's not a big deal with that particular tank. Now the BMP-1, probably one of the most underrated vehicles in the game. It's a very, very good one to bring in on its own, that I'm talking about. Yeah, you can get them with infantry in, but they can be very effective if you bring them in on their own. And the reason I say that is because they only cost 15 for the first variant, and with the first variant you get an ATGM with an accuracy of 4 and an AP power of 11. This AP power is very, very, very powerful, and the accuracy of 2 and AP power of 4 main gun. Now that main gun is very good close up, but this accuracy is terrible at long range. It has a speed of 60 kilometers per hour, which allows it to move around reasonably well, and the front armour of 1 and the side armour of 1 also helps it stay alive a bit longer. We've got an operational range of 600 kilometers and a fuel capacity of 450 litres, allows it to stay on the move, and it generally doesn't run out of fuel. Now the reason I say these are good is because of these ATGMs. When you vet these, it doesn't cost very much. I think you can get a fully vet BMP-1 for 30 cost, and basically they become quite a force to be reckoned with in, say, if you've got like 4 of them and you sit them in the middle of a field, because yeah, okay, the ATGMs are inaccurate, but 1 out of 4 missiles is probably quite likely to hit. I think at max range the accuracy is about 15%. I think with max vet it's like 20 something percent. I'm not exactly sure on the figures, but I think it's something like that. Anyway, they can be very, very powerful if you get some lucky hits with these ATGMs. Now the next variant is the BMP-1 OBR 1970. None of the other BMPs really seem like worth their price. You've got this one which comes with the Conkers. This potentially can be very, very deadly, but the trouble is you're spending 35 points and you're getting it on an armoured vehicle, which is very, very nice. However, there are vehicles which are cheaper which would fill exactly the same role but better. For example, like if you just take a Jeep with just this Conkers on it, you're paying 10 less, but yeah, okay, you don't have the armoured vehicle, but it's not as good, I don't think. I'd much rather prefer using Jeeps than I do armoured vehicles like this. Yeah, I guess you could bring it in. It could potentially be powerful. I don't use it very often myself though, so I can't really comment very well on it. The BMP-1 OBR, however, this is basically a slightly upgraded BMP-1 with a 1 more accurate ATGM and a 2 more accurate main gun. That's the only couple of things that change for an extra 10 points, so you're better off just vetting a BMP-1 than you are buying a BMP-1 OBR. The BMP-1P, I can see that being useful, so you could potentially bring them in if you were lacking ATGM vehicles. The BMP-1D, This is an anti-infantry vehicle, comes with more front armor and side armor, and it also has rear armor and top armor that the other BMP-1s don't have. And the reason it has that extra armor is basically because it's an anti-infantry unit. It comes with a grenade launcher, has that main gun, and basically it destroys infantry. It really does. If you have any infantry problems, just engage them with one of these. The front armor helps it survive against those AT rockets that the annoying infantry have. Now, you also have the East German variant of both the BMP-1, SP-1 and the SP-2. These are the equivalent of the BMP-1 and the BMP-1 OBR. Then you've got the BMP-2 series. Now, the BMP-2s, I like these a lot. I would much rather have a BMP-2 than a BMP-1P. That's why I use BMP-2s a lot more. They cost the same amount, except for the BMP-2 goes faster. It has an autocannon, which means it's more effective against air targets if it gets caught out in the open, and also at close range onto armoured targets. This autocannon adjusts itself very quickly and can become very accurate very quickly, and it's more or less just as effective when it's on target as the main cannon on the BMP-1P. It has the same ATGM, so you're not missing out on anything there, but this extra speed and the autocannon is basically my preference. And also, another thing to consider is that the BMP-2 series is basically a lot more usable. For example, the BMP-2D comes with 2 front armor and 2 side armor, which basically is an increased armor value in general for 5 extra points, and it makes it a big force to be reckoned with at long range skirmishes because of its ATGMs, which can be incredibly powerful. If you have 4 of these with accuracy 7 and AP power of 12, not many tanks are going to be surviving, and in the last game, I believe, I did demonstrate that against an AMX-32. Now, the BMP-2 OBR comes with a slightly upgraded Conkers, the Conkers M, which has an accuracy of 8 and an AP power of 14. Also has an upgraded autocannon, similar to the Bradleys, which is very, very powerful and has that extra speed, although lacks the armor. So this is basically more bang for your buck, but less armor. So be careful of that. The BMP-2D is very good for keeping itself alive. The BMP-2 OBR is more one of those sort of stay back at a distance with the ATGM kind of vehicles. This can be used as a very, very effective ATGM vehicle purely on its own. Now, the BMP-3 comes with an ATGM, which is the Bastion. Has an accuracy of only 6, but it is a very fast ATGM. It moves very, very quickly and has an AP power of 12. So what really makes this expensive is its accurate gun. It has an accuracy of 10, but it has no AP power, so it can't attack any armored vehicle with its cannon. Although it has 3 HE, so it's basically used against ground targets like jeeps or infantry. That's its primary use. It also has an autocannon with extra accuracy, which is incredibly good against like enemy aircraft if they get into range, because the accuracy just like snipes them out of the air. Can be quite effective against ground units, but to be honest, for a 60 cost, I would expect an ATGM that's a lot better, and you don't get that. Yeah, okay, it has faster speed, more front armor and side armor and rear armor than the normal BMP-2s, although it shares the same as the BMP-2D, but that ATGM really, really lets it down. So yeah, there's that to think about. I would never recommend bringing in BMP-3s. BMP-2s and BMP-2Ds are really what you want to be using. The BMP-2 OBR can also be very effective at long range. Now we've got the BRDM-2s, Malutka. I'm stumped. Sorry. Basically, I've never unlocked them. They've never seemed worth it. Basically, you're paying 45 points for something like you can bring in a BRDM-2 Conquer, right? It has 70 km/h speed, 1 front armor, 7 accuracy and 12 AP power on its AGM. Why not just bring in a BMP-2? You also get an autocannon. It costs the same amount. Exactly the same. You get an ATGM that's actually better on the BMP-2, and yeah, you get this auto cannon. It may be slightly slower, but it's on track, so it can get around easier. This one's got wheels, so it'll get stuck in the mud and all sorts. In general, getting BMP-2s over the BRDM-2s is a lot more worth it. I've seen people use these before, and I've always asked myself why. BMP-2s basically do everything you ever need for an APC and an ATGM vehicle. The BMP-2 series is a must-have, I would say, in the vehicle tree for Pact on any deck, no matter what strategy you're using. The BTR-70 PAIs, these are just the infantry carriers. I've talked about these briefly before when I was looking at the infantry. This is an unarmoured command vehicle, never really worth bringing out on its own. The armoured ones only begin at the BTR-70. The BTR-60 PB that also doesn't have any armour, so again, not really worth it. The only thing you're upgrading is the speed and the operational range. The BTR-70, you're getting more speed again, but it costs 15, and the last one, again, a little bit faster, has got that extra armour and 20 points, so it just seems a bit pointless. Why would you bring in a machine? Why would you bring in a vehicle for its machine gun? Unless you were trying to spam down choppers or something. It doesn't make sense to me to bring these out on their own, unfortunately. Anyway, let's move on to the BTR-70 Zhalo. I really like this tank, and it's basically exactly the same as a Marder VTSI on the NATO side. It's basically the exact equivalent, but except from it uses wheels, not tracks. And I think the gun is maybe slightly more accurate if we just go on to the USA ones, just add them to the deck. We can have a look. We want the Marder VTSI. Where are you? Somewhere here. Sorry about this, guys. Should be here somewhere. I think I'm just missing it, unless it's not even American. I thought it was American. Oh no, it's German, I think. Yes, of course it is. It's German. Okay, the Marder VTSI. This is the equivalent of the Zhalo. So if I just find the Zhalo. Okay, we've got the Zhalo here. 6 accuracy, 4 AP power, 3 HE power. The Marder VTSI is the equivalent, but it basically comes with extra AP power and not the accuracy. So it's sort of like that trade-off. The Germans like getting close and blasting shit with their big cannons, whereas the BTR Zhalo has a longer range because of its accuracy, but it has less armor. So they share the same speed, it's just that one's used for getting up close and the other one's for long range skirmishes, but they're pretty much the same unit on either side. But yeah, that's the BTR Zhalo. Very, very good for supporting tank pushes. I believe I used it at the beginning of my last game, if you want to take a look at that video. Basically, they're just good at, in general, against light armoured units. So if there is, for instance, jeeps harassing your heavy tanks with their ATGMs, you can use these to sort of flush them out. They only cost 20, so you can't really be too concerned about losing one. Now we move on to the Sturm-S. This is an awesome machine. Comes with a really, really good ATGM, accuracy of 9, AP power of 14, moves very fast, has a reasonably long range, has 60 speed to get into position, 1 front armor, it keeps it armored against artillery, and we've got a decent operational range and fuel capacity. This is like your staple anti-tank unit. I don't tend to bring them in because I prefer just use BMP-2s. But if you want something that will hit a bit harder to take out, for instance, Challengers or Leopard 2s, then a Sturm's always a good choice. It's just keep it protected because it has nothing to protect itself if it gets caught out by infantry or any light vehicles, for instance, because it won't have time to kill them all. So just be careful of that. Always keep it protected with other units. Then we got the Topezes. You can potentially bring these in on their own just for the recoilless rifle, but I would always try and recommend bringing them in with the infantry that you can get in them, because it costs 5 more with the infantry, and then the infantry is very, very useful, and it really complements the recoilless rifle that you get for the price. So there is that. The last variant doesn't come with a recoilless rifle, that's why I haven't unlocked it. The first variant though comes with just a machine gun and has that one front armor, so which can be very, very useful. Now we've got the Scot series, we've got the Scot 1, Scot 2. Scot 2 is preferable to the Scot 1 because it has a machine gun, although it does go, well, it basically goes exactly the same speed, but they both don't have armor compared to the Scot 2A and the Scot 2AM. The 2AM is something that you can consider bringing in with a high tier infantry unit, because it basically supports the unit with an ATGM, which can be very useful for harassing the enemy at both long and short range. Surprisingly, these ATGMs can be very, very accurate at close range, so do be wary of that if you come up against them, but you can take advantage of their speed to get close and then fire one of these ATGMs off into the side of a very armoured target and kill it pretty easily. But yeah, I don't bring these in very often. I would normally go for the Scot 1s or the Scot 2s, depending on whether I want this machine gun or not, which can harass enemy aircraft or take out light units that don't have any armor, for instance unarmored command vehicles. Because if you get to a point where you drive these onwards instead and you leave your infantry behind, and you imagine you just like you find a CV, if you had a Scot 1 instead of a Scot 2, that would really annoy you, because you wouldn't be able to take it out. You just have to sit there and look at it. It'd be kind of annoying, but there we go, sometimes it happens. So it's really just the choice between the Scot 1 and Scot 2. Scot 2A and Scot 2AM just seem like a waste of points. Now the OT-810D, this is just a tank destroyer, like basically it's like a German half-track with like a gun mounted on it. It is a Czech unit, but it comes with a recoilless rifle that is not very good, but you can potentially vet these at the cost of 20 points to make them into something that's maybe useful for rushing, but never an amazing unit to pick up. Now we've got the SBG-9s. This is the East German variant, and the Faggot, which is the ATGMs you can get on the Jeeps. I haven't unlocked either of these. I'll talk about the Russian variants when we get there. You've got the East German variant of this HGM vehicle, which I was talking about earlier. Then you've got the SPW-60PB. This is the East German variant of the BTR, and basically it carries your Motorschützen and so on. Very, very useful for that, but never really bring it in on its own. You've got the SU-12254. This is crazy good for taking out infantry. No joke. Check out the HE power on that. 5. If you've ever come across a NATO infantry rush, spam out a few of these to support your main counter, because they will mop up the infantry so easily. Basically one shot from their gun will just like take out a 5-man squad, no problem. It's ridiculous, and it's very, very powerful against chasseur rushes or legion rushes, or chasseur and legion rushes, which often happens. They have the 2 front armor, 1 side armor, 1 rear armor, keeps them alive against those ground infantry attacks, and 50 speed, so it's not even too bad at getting to the place it needs to be. A counter infantry unit though, never really use it offensively, they don't tend to work. The SPG-9, this is the Russian variant we're finally onto. You may have seen me using these in the last game. They can be very effective when they're vetted at 20 points. Basically that will give them rank 5, and their accuracy is greatly increased, but they're still only really effective at close range because the AP power really dissipates at long range, so you have to be careful. But either way, they are very good potentially when you upgrade them. They have an amazing operational range and fuel capacity because they're Jeeps, and the speed allows them to drive around just as much as they need to, although off-road they aren't very fast at all, so be wary of that. But if you're ever going to use them, vet them. That's what they're good at. Now we got the Faggot. This is the basically a sort of lower version ATGM Jeep that you can get on the Pact side. It's the equivalent to the tow, and then like the iTow equivalent sort of thing. On Pact it's Faggot and then Conkers. Faggot's just like it's such a ridiculous name. I never even knew there was a missile called it. But in the UK, you generally call people faggots. Now I just think, well, I'm calling them an ATGM. Yeah, that's completely offensive. Anyway, accuracy of 6, not great. Not gonna lie. You're much better off going with the Conkers, but it does cost 10 more, and all you're paying for is the upgraded ATGM. Now the second one, the Conkers, does have that extra range as well as the extra accuracy and AP power. But the Faggot, because it's so cheap, if you want to have a 4-man squad of Faggots, it's normally a lot more effective than a 4-man squad of Conkers in terms of cost efficiency. Because if you have 4 Faggots, then you're generally going to hit about the same amount as you would Conkers. I know they have the extra accuracy, but honestly that's the case from experience anyway. If you want to bring in Conkers, generally I would prefer to bring them in 2-man squads and maybe vet them once, and then you can make them like ATGM sniping vehicles from long distance. Really effective against heavy tanks. Basically what I would use them for. Then finally on the Pact vehicles today, we've got the Afghansky, an awesome vehicle to have in your vehicle part of your deck if you really don't want to bring in the Shilkas. Basically it's pretty much exactly the same as the Shilka, except from it's got a shorter range, but I think it just fires. Well, it's just I think it's just, I don't know why I like it, to be honest. It's just good. It only costs 20, and yeah, dotted them around similar to the Shilka. You can just catch people out with them. The speed is a lot more useful for getting them into position than the Shilka's 40 kilometers per hour, so there is that to look out for as well. But anyway guys, that's about it. There wasn't really much to talk about in terms of the Pact vehicles for strategy wise. Hopefully I can just demonstrate it in battles, but generally the ones that I use are the BMP-2s because they're so versatile. They can be heavy harassment with autocannons and the ATGMs, or you can be long range sniping with the BMP-2 Obr. The BMP-3 just ignore though. We got the Zhalo. That's probably a really good tank to bring in. Very cheap, very cost efficient. And then you've got the SPG-9s, Faggots and Conkers, which on the Jeeps is basically the same sort of thing as an iTow or a tow, except from the NATO Jeeps are a lot better with their ATGMs. So there is that to bear in mind, but these aren't bad either. So there you go guys, a wrap up of the Pact vehicles. Hopefully this has been useful, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.